Okay, we're going to do something a little bit different today. And ideally, having a little bit of wall space available would be helpful. You can still follow along and not have the wall space. I have it really easy to take my big canvas down here so I have more space. But if you don't have that, again, just follow along. But we'll do our regular warm up. So just light twisting, easing into things super gently is always a good idea. Even if you think you're super fit, which I don't think that about myself. I think I'm reasonably fit, but the older we get, the more important it is to ease into stuff. And I was working with a new client this week, and she was 69 and really had to explain that concept to her of it's you don't have to go from 0 to 100 just because you're working out. Start from 0 to 50 and work your way up. Or do you ever really have to get to 100? Depends on what that means. If it's joint motion, yes. But if it's like full blast, maximum lifting strength stuff, no, I don't think that's important. I think submaximal is probably what's best for your body, especially as we age. There's a lot of opinions out there. I know I'm one of many, but hopefully whatever I put out there makes sense. You can start lifting your heels and maybe taking it a little bit deeper into the end ranges. One of the most important aspects of our little workouts together is really posture. And that's something we're going to focus on today. Is if you work out and then you tend to get achiness in your neck and shoulders, then it could be a little bit of posture stuff going on. And sometimes we don't always catch ourselves. So, one of the things I really want you to focus on today is where are you looking while you're working out? And we often tend, as we age, to start looking down onto the ground and looking in front of you. And I know I've talked about this when I talk about let's swing the arms the other way. When I've talked about seeing people walking outside my window, and I tend to look down at their feet. And I think it's two things. I think it's not trusting your balance and your feet. And so you start paying attention to where your feet are, what's coming up in your path, double checking that there's nothing that's going to cause a problem, right? And that's valid. It's important. Okay, let's twist the arms on the axis. So the other, I think, really has a lot to do with social stuff because I think people kind of became more introverted maybe during maybe COVID, and there's a lot more isolation. And I notice when I'm out here walking, there's a lot of younger people that come from the businesses that are over on the, um, let's see, that was west side of me, over towards Trader Joe's. There's those great big business buildings. And they come and they walk on their breaks behind my apartment building and the One Pacific Place Park. And they're even looking down and they're probably in their 20s and 30s and some are older, but you can tell because they've got their business attire, business casual attire on, but they're even looking down at the ground. And oftentimes I'll have my gaze up waiting for them to glance up and smile or say hello, and they just don't. In most cases, they don't. And so that's more of a social thing than a necessity. So when you think about yourself, think about both of those aspects. Okay, let's add a little bounce. So keep the weight in your heels, keep your head up. So where I want you to think about in the process of our short time together is eyes on the horizon, eyes on the horizon. So looking straight ahead. Try to avoid looking on the ground. And I was trying to really pay attention to myself. I did a short workout this morning and I found myself looking down at the ground a few times for absolutely no reason because I was standing in place. So it can be just a habit. And when you're trying to do exercises, especially with your arms, and your head is looking down, that completely changes the biomechanics of the neck and the shoulder and places a lot more stress on those areas of the body. So, eyes on the horizon, head back over the shoulders is what we're going to strive for today. Okay, little wrist, little shoulder at the same time, if you can coordinate that. It's a little like patting the head and rubbing the tummy. Okay, both directions. Right now, let's just do a little warm up for the hips. So a little side to side. We're still going to keep the chest as upright as possible and the head stacked over the shoulders as we do our hip stretches. If your body tends to want to come forward, then don't go as deep. Relax shoulders down away from the ears. Okay. All right, now let's take a step forward. Press the heel down. Again, keeping the body upright, eyes looking forward. And they're on the Tuesday class. And the people that come live, I won't say any names or who, but there's someone who consistently likes to look down. And so you hear me giving cues about that because it's happening. Let's do the other side. It's a hard habit to break. Okay, let's do one more stretch for the feet. Hold on to the wall if you need to. This top of the foot presses into the ground. Maybe wiggle it side to side, trying to get the front of that foot. Other side, we're just kind of expanding the range. It's an area we don't stretch very often. And then let's get just a little mobility in the hip flexor, a little deeper than what we were just doing with the step back, the warrior one. You know, even this stretch, I see people wanting to look down. Okay, so here's what we'll do with the wall. So step back to the wall. And for me, when I back up to the wall, the first thing that touches the wall is my butt. So if your butt hits the wall before your heels do, then you don't want your heels touching the wall because then that's going to make you feel like you're being pushed forward. So if your butt touches the wall first, that's fine. The heels don't need to touch the wall. So definitely just feel like you're getting everything stacked up. If you want to look down, if you've got a vertical seam in your pants, then look at that. That can help you know if you're stacking yourself up. I'm just going to turn a couple more lights on. Okay. The next thing that you should feel touching is think about your bra line. Is your bra line touching? And then your shoulder blades. And I put my ponytail in the wrong place. So I'm going to change that. Up goes the bun. Okay, so the brow line, and then you should feel your shoulder blades too. So if you kind of do that shoulder roll that we do, you should feel your shoulder blades skimming, especially when you come back. And then the back of your head. Touch the back of your head to the wall. Now, if you notice that when you touch your back of your head to the wall, that your chin needs to pop up to get back there, then see if you can, once your head is touched to the wall, bring your chin down and still keep your head touched to the wall. Because if you feel back at the base of your skull, you can feel where the skull connects to the neck. And then as it starts to round, the top of that round spot here is where you want your head touching the wall. And if you can do that, then you know you've got your head stacked up where it belongs. And if you have the technology and the ability to get yourself in this position and set up your camera so you can take a picture of yourself, that can help create awareness around your posture as well. And one thing you might also notice is, where are your shoulders? Are they level? Are your feet underneath your hips? And do your arms hang to the side of your body, or do they tend to want to hang forward? The middle finger should fall to the seam of the pants. And if this feels, if you've got your bum, like your tailbone, now my butt cheeks stick out farther than my tailbone does. But, they're squishy, so I can feel my tailbone, and then my brow line, my shoulder blades, and then the base of my skull, the rounded part of the skull. If you can get those 3 points, you know your body is stacking up. Now, if you can get those 3 points, but it feels effortful, then make the effort to, when you walk through a doorway, stand against the door frame, stack yourself up, and continually give yourself those cues, those body cues. And the effort of moving into that space cues your fibroblast cells to take away some of that fascia so that you can move through it. It helps you create the muscular effort to maintain that posture as well. Okay, so if you have a place where you can get against a wall and stick your arms out straight, great. And what I want you to do is try these exercises with me. We're not going to use any bands or anything today. And just do sort of like you're doing a snow angel if you were laying down, keeping your shoulder blades against the wall, your back, your brow line against the wall, your head against the wall. And if you can't make a full sweep and keep all those things in place, make whatever level of sweep you can. It's a little more effortful for me when I get all the way up to that top range of motion. And that's a clue to me that, okay, that's something that I could be working on. At yours, you might pop away from the wall even up at any other range of motion. All we're doing is creating awareness, but we're also teaching our body to move in not the right plane of motion, because we always want to work in all different planes of motion, but we're keeping our head stacked up. So maybe step away from the wall and see if you can do it and stay stacked up. Now, if you can't see yourself, you're not going to know for sure. Okay, let's do a slightly different movement. Okay, we're going to bring the elbows down and then go straight up. Elbows down, as low as they'll come to the body, and straight up. You might also notice symmetry. As you're moving your arms up and down, do you feel your back continuing to touch the wall evenly on both sides? Sometimes there's a symmetry issue. Now, this is interesting because when I make myself work in this plane of motion, I can feel everything kind of fatiguing a little bit more. So maybe I also need to be thinking about this. Okay, let's just do one arm. We're going to do like a lateral bend. So let's let the right arm come up and then the left arm slide down. But we're going to keep those points, the back of the head, brow line, the tailbone connected. Let's do the other side. I know this seems like maybe for some of you, it's kind of simple movements, but see, I just pulled away. But it's never a bad thing to take a step back and check your habits, because we can get out of our habits so easily, especially if we've had downtime. And by downtime, I mean you took a vacation and you didn't have time to spend doing your regular fitness or self-care stuff. Maybe you had an illness. Maybe you had an injury. All of that can be a good reason to take a step back and rebuild from the posture up. This is a whole different ballgame. Having to stay perfectly in a range of motion. Okay. All right, let's take a little step away from the wall. We're going to try and really stay stacked up, and we're going to do a twist to the right. So start with the hips twisting, the shoulders twisting, and then just see where you can get your hands on the wall. Maybe some of you both hands will be out to the side. Maybe some of you can twist and touch both palms on the wall. And think about that head going straight up. And hopefully both feet are still pointing forward. Okay, let's go around to the other way. Feet planted, hip rotates, shoulders rotate, hands land where they land, not forcing anything. Shoulders relaxed on the way from the ears, head reaches straight up. Okay, let's go the other way. And the other way. Okay, now let's do a little flexion and extension of the spine. Now you really can't do good flexion and stay against the wall, even having your tailbone against the wall. Because as you do flexion, your tailbone needs to go out behind you. So let's step away from the wall, use the wall as a balance if you need to. We'll tuck the chin, slowly unstack. And as you come down, let the tailbone go out behind you. Keep the weight in the heels. So running through this flexion extension, let's stack it back up. Hands behind the hips, shoulders relaxed, and then bring the chest up. So the last three things we're doing is just spinal mobility, keeping the health of the joints of the spine. Very important. Always working at a pain-free range of motion, especially if you're dealing with osteopenia, osteoporosis. You want to keep your movements in whatever range of motion you can achieve in a very pain-free, nothing even close to pain, but you want to keep some mobility in those areas so you prevent your range of motion from getting smaller. Okay, let's try taking the shoulder joints through a deeper range of motion. So we'll stand sideways to the wall, and I've got my right shoulder not touching the wall. So my elbow sticks out farther than my shoulder does. It's probably because my hips are pushing it out there. Okay, so my feet looks like they're about 2 or 3 inches from the wall. So we're going to try and keep our body focused in one direction and the head, the eyes looking to the horizon and the top of the head reaching up. And then we're going to take the shoulder through the range of motion as if our arm was a clock, the hand of a clock. Now, this is one way to make sure that you're maintaining some range of motion in the shoulder. And you might notice your body has to turn a lot to get your arm through that range of motion. That's okay. The goal is going to be to try to keep your body as still as possible and let the shoulder joint take you through that range rather than your spine. Okay, let's go the other way. Again, we want this to be a pain-free range of motion. If even this is too hard, take another step away from the wall, and that will give you a little more freedom of motion. Okay, let me check the time. Oh my gosh, there's only 5 minutes left. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I'm hoping you appreciate maybe the step back. Well, there's a lot of exercises you can do against the wall. I want to fit one more in before we wrap up, so we might not have a lot of time for a cool down. Okay, let me get a lower body in. So bringing the head against the wall, try and get those points against the wall. And then we're slowly gonna move down the wall. Bring my mat back here so I have a non-skid surface. Okay, so bringing the body down the wall, keeping those points touching the wall, but going down into a seated position. So we're working on strength through the core, through the hips, through the legs. Now this kind of bugs my knees a little bit, so I'm going to go up a little bit higher. So you can do this seated position, and then you can do your arm step on top of it. So you can double your benefit. Okay, and then come out of that by just straightening your legs. And then you can come back into it at lots of different widths. Keep the weight in the heel, but it's okay too to like maybe lift your heels and then lift your toes, lift your heels. Okay, then maybe go out a little bit wider. Maybe throw in the shoulder a little bit wider. And so these are some simple body weight exercises against the wall that can reinforce your posture and potentially help cut down on some irritation that you might be experiencing from an unawareness of bringing the head forward and down. So just a few more little twists. Now, of course, when you're up against the wall, you don't have nearly as much freedom to do lots of different things, but you can get pretty creative and actually you could start a workout at the wall to reinforce and remind your body of good posture, and then try some other things. Let's do a little bouncing in this direction. But the most important thing is if you are hurting a little bit, trying to get back into something and don't feel like doing a lot, just reinforcing posture and simple mobility will help prevent decline. Sorry. I didn't get my water before my workout. Okay. I hope that was some helpful little tips to think about as you continue to move through things. And as always, do whatever additional stretches you feel like you need to do to take care of your own body's needs. All right, have a good weekend. The sun looks amazing today. So take care, guys.